Hello, everyone. Well, a lot of people are talking doom and gloom about the economy. Is there any positives to look at, or is it all gonna blow up? Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. My name is Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson, and I'm so excited. We have Martin Armstrong again, and he is never boring. This guy, he actually predicted the Russia's financial collapse in 1998, and he's predicted all kinds of things. And he has this little machine that seems to know. I don't know if it's AI or what, but we'll ask him. But it seems to know stuff, and he's a good man. And has paid his dues to be able to tell us the truth about what he sees happening. And boy, do we have some questions. Every single day, I do a lot of research before I actually sit in this chair. And it's concerning. And everyone in the world is actually concerned. So let's start by reading from my wonderful dad's Bible. He is awesome, and he's in heaven. Psalms 7, he underlined verse 8. It says, "The Lord shall judge the people." Amen. "Judge me, O Lord, according to my righteousness and according to mine integrity that is in me." You know, in order to actually pray a prayer like that, where you're saying, God, I hope that you judge my righteousness and I hope you judge my integrity, you have to feel pretty good about yourself. You have to believe that maybe you're doing a few things right. And I guess David felt that way. And I can honestly say that I feel that way. And I know that God is such a loving God. So I know if he's going to judge me and he's going to do anything, to deal with any unrighteousness, he's going to do it in a wonderful way. But I do pray that prayer. I do pray that I would act according to what is right. And I believe I am. And that's why I think I have integrity. And you know what? The Word of God says that the righteous are bold as a lion. And so I feel bold. And I don't think I'm a perfect person. And I bet you don't either. But if you are committed to truth, if you are walking with integrity, and if you have character, and if you've decided, in my past, I have a book that I've talked about some of my failings, Relentless Redemption, and we do offer that later in the show if you're willing to help us a little, or I'll just send it to you. It's now a Canadian bestseller, but it highlights, like, it took a lot to get me to this place. I wasn't always so perfect. In fact, I've made horrendous mistakes, and that's what the book is about, relentless redemption. Is there redemption after tremendous errors? And I believe there is. And because of what I learned in my failings, because of what I've learned in the hurt and the pain, either caused by myself or caused by other people, because of what I've learned, I know now a lot better what it looks like to be on the right side of history. And I appreciate that. I want to just, before we bring the incredible Martin Armstrong on, I want to just show you what was happening at Columbia University last night. And is this a voiceover at all, or? Okay, just, so this is complete chaos that's going on. Maybe just enlarge that and we'll have a look. So I guess they got tired of all of this crazy drama that's going on, and they've begun dealing with some of the people that seem to be, going against all of the common sense laws and things that, just thinking that they're all that in a bag of chips. I don't quite understand this arrogance that is out there. In all of the protesting I've ever done with the Freedom Convoy and what have you, never would I just yell at police officers in their face. I might give them a piece of my mind. I did give them a piece of my mind when they came after us, I guess, in Ottawa. But what I've seen actually with this motley crew is that basically they haven't they haven't been held to task at all. And so now it looks like there's starting to be some accountability brought. The police are starting to step in. And you can't just target Jewish students and not let them get to their classes. They're blocking them from going onto the campus. They're mistreating them. Like, this is full blown. You want to talk about being a racist? This is happening. And this is not okay. Not in our world, not in North America, not in Canada. This is not okay. My hugest concern was some of them now chanting, "We are Hamas." I don't know, that is really scary. When we don't recognize terrorists, when we don't recognize something that's truly wrong, that's not good. Even if we have a position, you know, we feel hard done by or whatever, if we don't in life recognize evil, how do we do what's right? So ongoing issues down there. I don't know what's happening today, JT. I haven't even seen that. I was looking at some other things this morning. I don't know if Colombia is, bringing all of that into alignment, or if we have something better. What I did read, actually, one thing I'm remembering is that it's spreading to all these other universities now. Yay! Should be fun to watch. So let's talk to Martin Armstrong about the economy. Let's talk to him about what's going on in the United States and all this upheaval. He is considered one of the most famous economic forecasters that there are. Because of this, he has been shadow banned by the government and mainstream media, of course. His economical modeling has provided one of the most consistent guides for understanding the turning points in the global economy and the business cycle, not merely within a domestic economy, but within the global economy on a collective basis. And as I said, he did predict Russia's, great trouble some time ago, 1998. So, Martin, we just welcome you to the show again. Thank you. It's always wonderful to have you.
Well, it's always a pleasure to come back.
Good. It's chaos out there, Martin. And whenever I'm listening to economists and some of the things you're writing about, Christians getting debanked and stuff like that, like, there's a lot going on both culturally and economically. And I don't know if we've ever been here. Some people saying we've never actually been in this place. Like, can the United States and, could Canada even bail us out of all the printing of money that has been going on?
No, I mean, we're in the final stages of really the decline and fall of republics. We have to understand that when the founding fathers created the United States, they referred to the writings of, like, Cicero. But Cicero was the fake news of the ancient world. Eventually they beheaded him. They cut off his hands and nailed him to the rostra. He was that bad. And unfortunately, they thought, a republic, against monarchy. You have Star Wars, basically the same kind of theory, the Empire, But effectively, a republic is always the most corrupt form of government because it's virtually impossible to bribe a dictator or a monarch. But in a republic, they're all up for sale. And that's really the real problem that you have.
I never thought of it like that, Martin. Like, a dictator already has everything. He's taken it all. He has it all. He doesn't really need anything. But Republicans in a republic, they're more willing perhaps to be bought off, and that kind of shenanigans can be going on.
Yes, it's historic. This goes to all republics going back thousands of years. We just have to understand that is the real problem we have here, that each one, they do not represent us. They represent themselves when they get down there. How do I retain power? There is a clip that you can look on my site at armstrongeconomics.com that I put on from the London Financial Times when Donald Trump was elected. And they were there at Davos, and they were all completely beside themselves because what they were doing was that they suddenly saw that the people could actually overturn them. And so that's when democracy suddenly became populism, this evil populism. So unless they win, it's not democracy. And I mean, just look at the arguments now. Oh, Trump's against democracy, so we have to take him off the ballot. I mean, it's even, come on, it's just so hypocritical, it's crazy. But, this is part of the process. The debt right now, this year, we'll have $1 trillion in interest payments. All right. And when Ronald Reagan came to power in 1980, the national debt hit $1 trillion. So the problem here is socialism.
So in 1980, we had $1 trillion in debt in 1980?
That was the national debt.
Wow, okay.
Now it's the annual interest expenditure.
Right.
It's impossible for them to ever deal with this. This is why they need war. This is why they're talking about CBDCs, because that's their way out. They can't step forward and say, hey, listen, sorry, we really messed up here. And, sorry about that. A politician is never, ever, ever going to admit a mistake. That's just simply, the way it goes. So what you have to be careful about here is we're all, out. Basically, we're on our own. Don't expect government to be there to bail you out or anything like that. If anything, it's whatever they do is always going to be against you. Because it's them basically against us. And that's unfortunately what happens in a republic. Cicero created all the fake news about Julius Caesar. But just look at the facts. When Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, everybody cheered because there was also a debt crisis. All right. It was the Senate that fled to Asia. Obviously, why did the Senate flee if they had the support of the people? I mean, Caesar was extremely popular, and that's why they ended up assassinating him. But he tried the honorable way, forgave a lot of people, and they just came back and they stabbed him to death. But this is what we're really facing. When governments fall, we're in this Ponzi scheme. All right, so they issue new debt every year, which basically pays off the debt that's maturing. When a government collapses, and historically this has happened many times, when you look at how they fall, they try to sell the new debt and nobody buys it. When nobody can buy it, then they can't pay off the old. So that's when the default comes. All right. And our real problem here is that you got, Biden, they've got their absolute perfect president. They want to be able to do whatever they want to do. They're unelected people. And the president is supposed to be the referee in these cabinet meetings. And the problem is he's on vacation 40% of the time. And he doesn't really know what's going on. So you have all these agencies doing whatever they want themselves. You got EPA outlawing gas stoves. I grew up with a gas stove. I think I'm still alive. You've got the State Department threatening war on absolutely every level they possibly can, from the Middle East to against Russia, China. Oh, we're going to go after you if you go into Taiwan or Philippines or whatever. And then you got North Korea. I mean, they're threatening everybody. So then Janet Yellen has to hop on a plane and go to China, who happens to be the largest holder of U.S. debt, and say, please keep buying our bonds. And they look at him like, well, what, you want us to buy another $100 billion so you can buy some bullets to shoot us? What? I mean, they're just, it's wow. You wouldn't even make a comedy movie out of this. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, but this is the problem when you don't have a president who is there. and they're all just running amok. And each agency, it's like children. If they don't want to be told no. So it's like, if dad says no, then they go to mom. All right. So this is the same way in Washington. When he's not even there, great, fantastic. We can do whatever we want. And that's unfortunately where we're going. So all these people are saying, oh, the Fed's going to lower interest rates, etc. Sorry, the Federal Reserve understands. All right. The more you go into war, basically interest rates rise. They just handed Ukraine another $95 billion. I can tell you from, we had 2 employees there in Ukraine. And I can tell you that if Zelensky is assassinated, it won't be Putin, it will be by a Ukrainian. It was in the news over there that Putin was told the truth. There was a peace deal. Boris Johnson from England went over and told Zelensky, you're not allowed to have peace. And then that made the press finally in Ukrainian Pravda on the front page. And then Zelensky just had to come out about a month ago and say, no, we can decide peace if we want. Over 500,000 people have been killed since. All right. All this money, it doesn't do any good if you don't have somebody there to shoot back. And nobody, I can tell you, I swear on my soul, nobody in Washington ever expected Ukraine to win. They were there simply as cannon fodder to kill as many Russians as possible for the end game. And the end game is that NATO then goes in against Russia. And, already you have people warning that, Macron has sent some advisors already into Odessa. All right. And you have Poland coming out saying, well, if Ukraine falls, we have to go in. They have built this up to such a degree that Ukraine could never possibly win. Russia had 4.5 million people in the army without, drafting. Let's be real here.
Why are our nations keep sending them money then? Because this is problematic. We have had these generals that speak and say, Russia's winning, like you say, 500,000 people already dead, and Canada is sending the money, and the U.S. just sent them a large chunk.
Most of it's being just put in a lot of people's pockets at this point.
So despicable.
Because they even the general who resigned, Ukrainian general who resigned, told Zelensky we need to draft 500,000 people to replace who's been killed. They don't have that population. About 8 million people have fled. The 2 employees we had, one was from Donetsk and the other one was from Kiev, so one on each side, and they're both in Berlin. It's honestly, I talked to people from there, and I also talked to some people from Russia, and they're not politicians, just average people that I've known over the years, and they said, "Why does the world absolutely hate us?" It's a good question, but this is the way they do things. They demonize the head of a state, like they did with Saddam Hussein. And that justifies people going into war. They're doing this with Putin. They use the same tactic with Trump. Oh, he's a liar. He's this, he's that. And then to go after all the mega people. It's you attack the leader, and then you take that and you apply it to everybody else that's there.
That makes a lot of sense. Like once you have dehumanized them, then every means is fair. Every possible way you can take them out doesn't matter. All the money that's needed It doesn't matter whether you're even able to win a war on their behalf. As long as you've demonized this other person, you just have to go after him. And it's actually crazy thinking.
Well, that's actually what happened in Germany. The bankers were the Jews. All right, so let's get the bankers. Then it goes into, oh, well, the Jews got all these businesses. Let's get them. That's Kristallnacht. Then like, oh, the heck with it. Just get them all. And this is the way it happens. Just as the clip you were showing there about Colombia, all Jews, just get them all. It's just, this is the way, unfortunately, humanity goes. It's all or nothing. And it's a sad,
It's so much
sad
upheaval.
statement, but it's true.
Yeah, so much upheaval. And then we were all struggling. I was on the phone with a Canadian farmer this morning, and he's from, a provinces, outside of British Columbia. But the concern is that he says, when Klaus Schwab said you will own nothing and be happy, he said, I think he was right, except for the second part. We're going to end up owning nothing, and we're not going to be happy. He lied about that part. We're not going to be happy about it, but there is the mechanisms now being put in place for all kinds of crown land or whatever, that in an emergency, and that could be declared for any number of reasons. In Canada, you're allowed to just go into people's homes and set up camp and do whatever you need to do because it's an emergency. So we're seizing your property, or perhaps it's given to, we have something called UNDRIP in Canada, and it's like seizing properties basically as Indigenous lands. And so you don't have ownership, and everything is, can be taken from you.
No, that's basically what's happening. It's mainly because governments know that they are failing. All right, so the more they fear losing power, the more aggressive they become. That's part of this historical cycle, and that's what it ends. Honestly, at the end, it leads to revolution. That's where it always has happened throughout history. So that's when you get this. I don't know. It's part of the cycle of humanity. It just all reaches some crescendo and just collapses. And then it starts all over again.
It's kind of scary, Martin, because it does look like that. Like with your big election coming up this year, whichever side wins, there's going to be so much unhappiness because it's so split, a lot down the middle, shockingly. I mean, thank God Trump seems to be doing better in the polls. And I think he's getting in, not only because Kim Clement had a prophetic word that he would, and he predicted that, way before. You probably don't know who Kim Clement is. But anyway, someone we kind of follow, and very accurate prophet that has died, called Trump's name like back in, 2008 or something like that. But the thing is, revolution, some people feel like America can never fall. It's too big. It's too powerful. It's, it has too much. It can never fall. But now we're looking, what do they have? They keep printing money. They don't even have gold.
Well, that's not the issue. The issue is that the United States is effectively 4 different countries. You have some completely different cultures. Like I'm here in Florida, and to me now California looks like a foreign land. And then you got the Bible Belt in the middle, and then you got New York, which is completely off the chain. So culturally, the United States is quite different. Now, it didn't matter when we had a legitimate federal government, but when you start having a government that tries to now impose upon everybody the same rule of law that they want, that's no longer civilization. All right. Just look at Zelensky. Zelensky, to create this war, first outlaws speaking Russian. The Donbass has been Russian, for hundreds of years. So now all of a sudden you can't speak Russian. Then he goes on and on about, what's the formal language. Then he's just outlawed. First, he said you have to report to our patriarch and not the patriarch, in Moscow, kind of like their pope. And then lately he goes, okay, fine. You can no longer celebrate Christmas Orthodox style. It has to be December 25th. I mean, I think if Canada basically started doing this and said, we're going to outlaw French, I think you're going to have a civil war too.
Right. Well, Quebec would be unhappy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't do this. You can't change the very culture of people. Estonia is starting the same thing, trying to outlaw Russian, and half the country is Russian, and then all these places were Russia. And I'm talking about going back to the empire, the czars, right up to Kiev. That's where the Russians even began. So it's you can't just change people's languages and religions and stuff like this. It's deliberate to create discontent. And you take, look, the Supreme Court was correct, like on abortion. Give it back to the states, and you have Washington. No, it's got to be our way. You can't do this, and you make one person happy and the other person's offended. So you end up in this civil war, which is what it always comes down to. So the United States will break apart. Canada will break apart too. Absolutely.
And it'll break apart because we're just changing everything. And do you mean that we'll have different boundaries and it'll become like the Florida style versus the California style of the United States?
Yeah, I mean, it will at least break apart along the same original lines, north versus south. But we're most likely looking at a break apart from the west, also from the rest of the region. Even in Canada, you'll probably see the same thing, west versus east. Alberta and BC will eventually separate and say enough is enough. You can't do these dictatorial things and change everybody. It's one size does not fit all.
Right. So when you say they'll break apart, do you think that we're looking at that is really looming? Is that a big financial crisis, a political crisis, a cultural crisis, sort of all coming together? Like, do you think it's soon, or do you think this is going to take 10 years?
No, I don't think we have that much time. The 24 election, our computer's been absolutely phenomenal in forecasting politics over the years and wars, etc. Back in 85, it projected 2016 would be when the first time we could have a third-party president. And the target was 2017.05. That was the very day that Trump was sworn in. And both sides hated him. They still hate him. 2024, the computer basically said, nobody is going to accept this election. And I think we can see that. But the next election out, 2028, it's warning that may not even exist.
Wow.
All right. So they built this thing up, this hatred of Trump. Oh, he's this, that, or whatever. The computer shows he should win. And it's about, basically you're looking at 65 to maybe 30%.
Okay.
But I don't care who wins. You had one Democrat actually come out and said, Trump needs a bullet.
Yeah.
Then you had George Soros' son come out with a tweet showing a bullet hole through glass and $47 next to it. I mean, if I did that, I mean, the SWAT team would be here. If I did that with Biden,
Wow.
um, you
Isn't that
actually
hate
have,
speech or something?
yeah,
Violence,
something, sure.
yeah.
I mean, you have definitely people talking about assassinating Trump.
Mhm.
And
God be with them.
I'm concerned that they will definitely try to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just polarizing the country to such an extent that you're not going back. I mean, this has been a dividing issue here, and this is the way it's going to be. I mean, so the computer's showing um, a sharp rise in civil unrest in 2025. Um, we're
And that,
looking
I
at,
think that definitely means that Trump wins because, of course, you've already got a prediction of 65%. But it just seems that even if Republicans are not happy about an outcome, Biden wins again, they'll be upset, but they don't burn the country down. It's the other side that brings on the unrest. So
it's
this
always
is
the left.
problematic, right?
It's the left that creates the communist revolutions. Um, I mean, over 220 million people died, when they were against capitalism. Um, and it's just, you had a big communist revolution in 1848 that swept throughout all of Europe. This is the way it goes. And the Weimar Republic in Germany uh, was based upon a communist revolution there in 1918, and they were actually inviting Russia to come take Germany. The Weimar Republic was, said, well, we're not going to confiscate everybody's, land, and they ended up in hyperinflation. This is the left is, you cannot have, uh, you know, I would say call it a religious agenda, as politics. Um, there's such a thing as there should be freedom of religion. Um, but I mean, just look at Iran. I mean, when the same thing happened there, they took unemployment that was 44% and drove it to 40%. Um, that's why they took the American embassy back then and everything else and started calling the United States, oh, the great Satan. It's them. It's done this. No, it was your own government. You confiscated property, you nationalized and threw out all the oil companies, and you did a great job at taking unemployment from 4% to 40. So this is what we have to face, unfortunately, and it looks as though we're going into war. They need this war and desperately as the excuse to default on debts, etc. And they are planning on creating a Bretton Woods 2 to replace the dollar with basically CBDCs.
Now that's very complicated for me. So what is Bretton Woods? Give us for anyone who doesn't understand that. I certainly get all of it, but just kidding. I don't know what that is. So help me to understand that.
Well, Bretton Woods was after World War II. Everybody got
Okay.
together and they created the monetary system.
Okay.
And that's what made the dollar the reserve currency.
Okay.
So this time they want to make central bank digital currencies, mainly from the IMF, to replace the dollar.
So is that so? What kind of problem do we have right now with what's going on with the money today? Do you see that there's a huge financial collapse coming? Could Trump fix all of this?
Sadly, I don't think Trump can. We've gone too far down the road. We just have to basically kind of crash and burn. And then we
Wow.
get to restart it over again, and just learn our lessons. Look, in life, just as you said, you make mistakes, you advance by learning from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Unfortunately, society never does. And that's why history constantly repeats. The individual learns. If you stick your finger in a flame of a candle, you know it hurts. All right. You're not going to keep doing it for the rest of your life. But society does. Because society does not have a collective memory.
Wow. When you say crash and burn, what does that look like to you? What does it end up looking
Basically,
like?
you're looking at defaulting on government debts, things of that nature. So,
Mm-hmm.
like pension funds that are 100% government bonds, I think would be at a risk. Um, when a company goes bankrupt, like General Motors or something, uh, it, everything's auctioned off and you get something back.
Mm.
When a government goes bust, you get nothing back. You can't go down to the National Gallery and start, picking out Picassos, Um, so this is basically what happens throughout history. There'll be a new form of money. The things that make that transition are like maybe just some gold, silver coins, things of that nature.
Hmm.
Real
So
estate makes
it's
that
important.
transition.
Yeah, go ahead
Um,
about real estate.
if you look at the hyperinflation in Germany
Mm.
and the currency collapsed, the next currency in 1925 they didn't have any gold, so that it was backed by real estate.
Mm.
And so people are land is still worth something. A house is still worth something, regardless of
Yes.
how you value it. You value it in Canadian dollars up there. We value a house down here in US dollars. It still has an international value to it.
Right.
Um,
Now,
anything that's tangible in that sense.
right. And in Florida, I mean, your prices there are the highest they've really ever been that I can see. Like, because you can go on Zillow and you see that every single place that's for sale in 2022, some places it's gone up double since 2022. And I'm trying to
Mhm.
figure that out because I guess there was a big rush to Florida this last few years because California is horrible. And maybe people who liked the beach over there will want to go to the beach on the other side of the country where people have a brain left. But everything's so high. Then people got these mortgages at lower prices, but now they're coming due, and now mortgages are unattainable, or they don't think they can keep making that monthly payment, so they're trying to sell. But now no one's really buying. So in your market in Florida, I'm seeing like it's drop, price reduction, price reduction.
It depends. I spoke to realtors here, and what they're saying is that if a house is like $1 million or more, they're just paying cash. So it seems as though people are just trying to get money off the grid, get it out of the banks, etc. I was just out in Austin, Texas, and most of the people I knew there, they want to move to Florida. And I said, why? He said, well, they got to swim to get to you. They just walk across the border here. Um,
Right.
and
It's safer.
so
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely say I've been here in Florida about 8 years. The traffic has at least doubled.
Mm.
Um,
It's one of the
and
best states because you got DeSantis, you got the great weather, you got conservative values mainly. So it's a fantastic place to live. I mean, there's almost I can't really think of a better state myself, but I do really like Florida. But
it's safe. Um, I mean, I never saw the only sign I ever saw for Hillary was Hillary for prison. That was about it. Um, you still see huge rallies down here for Trump, etc. But
right. What about
um,
though? What about some folks in Florida who don't have the cash that it takes? Do you think there's going to be economic outfall and downturn, just maybe the lower income families, families that put everything they had into getting into that 2 or 3% mortgage, and now, they maybe can't keep doing it. Now they need to sell, and it's another crisis.
Well, if they had a fixed rate, they should be okay. At least down here, the economy is still quite booming. Just about every place you look, it has signs out, help wanted. There's definitely a shortage of help around here. And what you're going to see is that the economy is going to move more into a recessionary atmosphere after May. And that
After
will
May.
prevail into 2028. But
So
you
that's a
have,
solid 4 years, you think that?
yeah.
And recession, how would you define that as opposed to like, oh, we're just kind of having a downturn? Is recession like not a depression? It's just,
Yes, not a
yeah.
depression, but it's very diverse. So what you see is it will be much worse in places like New York, California than it would be like, for example, here. Because you also have this great migration taking place from the blue states to the red states. And they are planning another, pandemic, COVID, the sequel, I guess. And they intend to use that to justify, as well as climate change lockdowns, and all of this is they've been talking about behind the curtain here, so that they can justify more mail-in ballots for the 24 election. If you take out all the mail-in ballots from 2020, Trump won by those that just showed up to vote.
Right.
And that's why you have all these people coming in from the South. They're giving flyers, vote for Biden. It's That's what this is about. It's all this internal migration that's coming is intended to change the culture and politics of the country, and that's going to contribute to why the country breaks apart.
Right. People are pretty upset about what you've had happening on your southern border there. How does that affect? I mean, morale's affect. People feel like you're losing your country, like the greatest country on the planet. And I mean that. I'm a dual citizen, but I like America. Canada can't defend itself, so we rely on America, although we snub them. There's a lot of like, oh, Americans here. But I've never had that because my dad taught me to love Canada and the United States. And so I have a balanced perspective on it. And I don't think of them as being arrogant. I think of them as being powerful, and I'm glad that they are. But now we're just seeing the fall of the culture and all of the woke stuff. Like, it's just destroying everything.
That's part of the reason why it breaks up. This woke agenda, you have to understand, the core of communism was to divide the family. And children were actually taught in school in East Germany, and I had friends that went to school there. And they were taught that your parents are not really your parent. They are only your biological parents. The state is your parent. And if your biological parents ever speak ill of the government, you should report them. So that's what this woke thing is about. You divide the family unit, all right? And you're replacing that with government. So this is all part of the left agenda. And it's been that way if you really look at communism. I went behind the Berlin Wall before it fell. I wanted to see what it was really like. And it was very, very interesting. But this is what we have to come to terms with.
It was interesting in what way? the Berlin Wall, going behind it?
Everything I see here today reminds me of that.
Oh boy.
When I went behind there was a friend of mine. The day the wall went up, he was a little kid walking with his grandmother, happened to be on the right side of the street. He became American, but the rest of his family was trapped. So he asked me, would I go with him to Berlin? Because he was afraid that if they found out he was born there, that he might be kidnapped. I said, sure, I'll go with you. I want to see what this is really about. And you were forced to buy East German marks at the border. When you went in, nobody would take them. And when you went to leave, they just confiscated them. They would never redeem them. So, and his cousin, she took us around, and if anybody was remotely close to us, it was, oh, the government takes such wonderful good care of us. And as soon as anybody's not around, she'd call them every name in the book. So what we have here, canceling cultures and things of this nature, you got to be careful what you say. This is what communism was all about. You couldn't speak freely. One friend of mine who grew up there, when the Berlin Wall fell, his father went and got his Stasi file. And he saw that everybody he thought he was friends with were ratting on him. And he came home. He was so angry. He was punching holes in the walls. He thought his father had, was having an episode or something, and he's pulling out microphones. To this day, he will not speak to anybody other than family. This is what you're really looking at. It's like, oh, what did you say? Oh, you're for Hamas, or you're for a Jew, or this. When you start getting into this stuff, it is hate speech, but it is such censorship that that's not what freedom's about. And we are moving in that direction. And so we will collapse because you're doing that. It's, it's self.
Right.
All right. Communism was inefficient and a collapse because only the government could come up with anything new. If you had an idea for something, oh, gee, this might really work, you weren't allowed to do anything. All right. So there was no innovation. That's that 1959, they call it the kitchen debate, where Nixon was showing Khrushchev, see, oh, this was created here by the private sector. That's really the stark difference between communism and, I know Schwab personally. I can tell you he is a control freak, and what he is doing is exactly that. And he does have a picture, a bust of Lenin on the shelf in his office. It is
He does.
very much, he's an academic, and a lot of the academics are far left. Oh, equality, things of this nature. And we're equal in rights, but not equal in talent.
So if we're talking about a collapse, sorry to keep asking this, like, does it collapse into communism and control, and the bad guys win? Or does the country get a good president and two different presidents over different areas? Like, does it politically separate?
Yes, there'll be political separation. Europe will break apart as well. You can't have, one type of culture imposed upon everybody else. You just can't do that. The Roman Empire flourished for mainly a lot of the Christians said, oh, they got so many gods, mainly because they didn't change anybody's religion. It was freedom of religion. So yeah, there was all kinds of different gods. Not that the Romans had them, but every place that they had their little local deity if it did something or whatever, Athena and Athens, etc. So that was part of their process of religious freedom. And the Jews came in conflict with it when they refused to honor anybody else's religion. That was the problem, because you had all the barbarians that were coming in, and then there would be national, like a prayer day or something to save the empire, and they would refuse to participate. So then others would say, oh, well, the gods are angry at us because of the Jews. Things of that nature.
Well, what about Canada, where everybody supposedly is supposed to be respected with religious freedom? We're finding that it's got a lot of chinks in that idea. But everyone's supposed to be, you can come here. We brought the Muslims in. We brought the Sikhs in. We've got the Christians. We've got the atheists. And everyone's supposed to be okay. But we're still like, nothing's okay.
Yeah, no, you're divided. That's just simply the way it's always going to be.
Yeah.
It's a nice idea.
Do you think multiculturalism fails? Like like our leaders here in Canada, this is what I remember first hearing this when I was really a really young person. Oh, we're going to be a multicultural society. We're going to, allow everyone to come and we'll all be together as Canadians. But, you can still retain your own ideas in that. But now we're just so divided.
Well, when they were forming the euro, I mean, they came to me and I told them, I said, you don't understand what made America, America. I said, it was actually discrimination. I said, oh, how can you say that? I said, because whoever was the last off the boat didn't get a job until they spoke English. All right. So then after the second generation, you ask an American, well, what are you? Well, I'm half Irish and half German. Well, you don't see that in Europe, because they're different languages. You don't get somebody from Scotland going down and marrying somebody from Sicily.
Mm-hmm. If we are different, then we don't gel. We're not cohesive the same way. So it's really a grand idea that has not, we're happiest amongst, I think, people of like mind, of like culture. And
yes,
when everything is brought together, there's clearly a problem. And there's really a problem now because, like the way I see it with what's happening in the US and in Canada, we have these large protests going on here in Canada as well, with people basically, some of them outright declaring themselves to be Hamas, but these anti-Israel marches are getting more and more aggressive, violent, and no one knows what to do with them. They don't put it down the way they did with the freedom-loving people who were not violent. We cried every day and we sang, "Oh Canada," and they went after us. Now we're calling, death to the Jews, death to America, and no one's doing anything about them.
This is part of the problem. It is, look, most of my sources said that basically 40% of the people that invaded Israel were not even Palestinian. All right. They were coming from all over. All right. And they always use the civilian population. All right. You can Google it and you'll see in war, more civilians die than soldiers all the time. All right. The sinking of the Lusitania. It's been shown that yes, the U.S. was seeking, hiding, arms on there to Britain, and Germany even put an ad in the paper: "We will sink this. Do not sail on it." Oh, see, they attacked a civilian private ship. It was loaded with arms. All right. They always use the citizens as cover. And then they want you to kill them. You can also Google, Project Northwoods, where the CIA petitioned John F. Kennedy to kill Americans and blame it on Cuba to justify an invasion. And Kennedy said no. That's on Google. That's in Wikipedia.
Good
Project Northwoods. I mean, these people will always want to kill civilians. You can Google Washington Post, because it came out that Zelensky knew when the Russians were going to come in, and he did not tell his people. And the Washington Post said, "Why did you not inform your people?"
Wow.
He said, "Well, I would have lost $7 billion if I did."
That's
All right. But the real
what they
truth
care
is
about.
they want the civilians to be killed so they can say, "See how bad the
We have to go
Russians
to
are."
war. Yeah. And they don't
It's
care.
always the same thing.
Right. I think we've lost total trust in our governments. We've lost trust in anyone in authority because they don't care, and evil is abounding in their thoughts. We're all removed. I guess they think they'll be okay or their families are okay. And maybe they have enough money to protect themselves. But human life is getting, I grew up in Uganda, East Africa, and they killed people there all the time. We were there under Idi Amin's dictatorship. And my dad would go down to the river and there were tons of bodies floating by. And I'm just shocked that my dad didn't haul us out of there for our protection. But he waited, actually, my mom and dad, until the army came and got him, took him to Kenya, and said we had 48 hours to get out of Uganda with my dad in custody. And my dad, 3 months before, had seen the mayor's throat slit, and he was the only white man in the town square. So our church people and everyone was like, "Mr. Freeman, you really, like, we know you were there. You were not incognito, and we think that you should go." But life was cheap, and now it feels like I always thought that's in those countries, those sad, beaten down countries full of poverty. But now it's really here. They don't care. Trudeau doesn't care. Biden does not care. And we're feeling more and more alone. And that's making us, hopefully fall to our knees a little bit. I think that's happening. But it's going to get worse, I think, is what I'm hearing you say. And when you talk about a collapse and a separation, this is not necessarily going to be the next 4 years, May to 2028. Is you're saying a recession?
The way it goes, they pushed it too far, and it's it's just history repeating itself. It's not my personal opinion or something I would like to see. I mean, it's just the way things unfold, and because once you give anybody power like that, they will never, ever, ever relinquish it freely. That's the old saying: you can vote your way into communism, but you got to shoot your way out.
And we're kind of there. Like this is very sad. Yeah.
It's you can't, it's. I mean, look at what Trudeau's doing to Alberta. I mean, that's their living.
Yeah.
All right, and fossil fuels. There's no evidence that they ever created any sort of thing.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's just, climate has always changed. The bottom of the ice age was the late 1600s. There's letters from John Adams to his wife saying the ground is frozen 2 feet deep. We can't even plant anything. And it got warmer. It's all because of the Industrial Revolution. No, it's not. These people don't look at any historical evidence whatsoever. The sun is a thermodynamic system which beats like your heart. That's irrelevant. The Earth has 100,000 year cycle where it tilts one way, tilts another way. That's irrelevant.
Here in Canada, our environmental minister, they want to put in a plastics registry. We don't know what it is, but they're going to spend a ton of money to get in a plastics registry, whatever that is, and they're going to be following, I don't know, what happens to a bottle, like where does it end up? I don't know. It's ridiculous. Now I hear,
it is.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It is crazy. And if it's not, another pandemic, it'll be the climate crisis that they use to shut us down. And we have serious things already in place in Canada that if there's any kind of emergency declared, they can make all of our lives miserable. We're nothing. They don't care. They can seize your home, bank accounts. Who knows what's going to happen? It just can be utter chaos. I don't like it. We need Trudeau gone yesterday. But you are going to be going to London. I've kept you longer than I said, and you're just amazing. I could probably talk to you for hours. But you're heading to London. You have a seminar there. Tickets are now on sale. So if anybody wants to get there, this is the place to be. What do you do at your seminars?
Well, this one's going to be basically we have our main model is turning May 7th, which happens to be also the day that, Putin is inaugurated. It just looks like war and economic decline. And so our European clients are very anxious for us to come over there. They want to look at it, every single country, what's going on, where to move to them. And that seems to be coming almost the number one question I'm getting from all over the place.
Is that right? So people are asking, where do we move to? Like, where do we go? Because that's interesting because I'm having more and more people say, I'm not feeling safe in Canada. Where do you think's the best place to go? I mean, I've heard El Salvador is kind of maybe a great place. You probably have a whole bunch of things to say on that.
There are a lot of people moving to Uruguay. Seems to be a very popular target for a lot of Europeans. And I think that's also what's happening here in Florida. You have so many people moving down here. And there are people talking about, a separatist movement here in Florida, and I would vote for it. Yes, let's build our own wall and keep everybody else out,
Right. Okay, I've got someone from London asking, where in London will you be? What is she saying?
I think it's at the Marriott.
Yep.
It's on the site.
Yep, it's on the site. So everybody, Armstrong Economics, I think that's armstrongeconomics.com. And I see you have virtual tickets as well. So if we're not able to get there, at least we could get a video recording of what you're sharing.
Yes, we have probably generally about 37 countries it's being live streamed to.
Wow.
So
fantastic.
They end up being quite an international event.
Yes. Thank you for telling the truth about so many things. I don't know if it's easy to hear what you're saying. And what's interesting about you, Martin, is you're not yelling it or saying it with any kind of passion or exuberance. You're like, yeah, we're gonna collapse. It's we're breaking apart. Like you just kind of say it just like that. So then you're kind of like that's a really big prediction, and you have a lot of experience behind you, and so we don't take your words lightly. And I think it's cause for concern, and what do we do? Because I believe in preparation. So how do we prepare if we see something coming? And for me personally, being a Christian, I'm always saying, okay, God, where are you in the middle of all of this? But it's a bit of a disaster. Do you feel like it's a bit of a disaster? Final question.
Well, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I just understand what these things are about. And you get to redesign government from the bottom up. And hopefully we do it correctly this time. And I mean, I've got grandkids. I would like, to see a future for them. I don't think it's all doom and gloom in the end of the world. It just, it's a, like on a computer, Control Alt Delete, reset. But
I hear you. It's all about the grandkids now, and I think that's part of the pain. Is like, what are we leaving our kids? When I when I was young and growing up, we lived in the greatest country, Canada, on earth, because we felt we were at peace. Some people hated the Americans, but they didn't hate the Canadians. The Canadians were so great. Now, we are mocked. We are worldwide mocked. So what are we leaving our kids? I struggle.
Look, you have what I call these neocons, and they're just a bunch of sick people. And I've argued with them face to face. They took out Saddam Hussein, and the theory was if you remove these dictators and you create regime change and force democracy in, which we don't even have ourselves, it's really a republic, and that the people will cheer and give them a ticker tape parade for saving them. And they're saying the same thing about Russia. Oh, if we take out Putin, the Russian people will cheer. No, they will not. I'm sorry. You have demonized every Russian, period. And as I said, one friend from Russia who's not into politics or anything else said, everybody just hates us. It's a shame, but this is the way things have developed,
have progressed. And everybody hates everybody, like all the different factions in the groups and the inner turmoil. If you don't hate, one of your leaders, you hate the people that like the other guy. You just, and culturally, we're at a really new place with this whole Palestinian thing. I think the wind has been unleashed. I don't know. And like you say, it's hard to come back from a lot of things that we've done. Martin, always so fascinating to speak with you. Thank you very much for giving us so much time today. We have people, we have well over 1,000 watching us right now, and people are loving it, and they appreciate your honesty. And we pray that there is that light at the end of the tunnel that you talked about briefly.
There will be. Just make sure you have probably a couple years worth of food that lasts.
Okay.
Because there will be shortages as well.
Right. Yeah, you see that coming. Okay, I can't make final question. Food shortage, no. Okay, yeah, we're all over the food. We get it. It is happening. Thank you so much, Martin, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Take care.
Take care. Yeah, I really appreciate his honesty, and throwing in the food shortage at the end. 2 years worth of food, right? We're always saying, well, make sure you have a couple weeks or a month of food for in case of an emergency. 2 years of food. I know people actually in Canada, in Ontario, a whole group of Christians they're canning, and they're canning a lot of stuff. And I'm not really a canner, and I don't even like food on a daily basis. Like I actually don't, I'm not one who gets enjoyment from food. So it's not on my high priority. Like food. Yeah. People are canning too much. Yeah. Oh, if they're canning too much. Yes. So we had a couple in our area come over, and we had coffee with them, and she's canning. So guess what? On this canning site on Facebook, right? Apparently they have this little notation. Listen, if anybody wants to, if you feel that others are canning too much and you want to, make a report on that, here's the number that you call. And she was so taken back. Like, what did they mean? Are people prepping too much? Is there, are you putting away too much food? Like, why would they do that on God's green earth? It was very alarming, and it wasn't a joke. It was like, if you feel someone else is putting away too much food and hoarding or whatever, here's where you call to turn them in, think on them for canning too much. I don't know. But it is, I guess, it is important. I know that sometimes we have these items in our cupboard where we sort of have a little area in the cupboard where we know, okay, in an emergency, we can, say we have no, if we have no electricity, so we've got a barbecue that we could heat up, and we could do such and such with this food for a while, and we could get through, having water in your home, things like that. So you don't want to be the ones that have to go and get your water out of the toilet tank, you know, the back part. It just, people say that's one way. Or you fill your bathtub up as soon as an emergency happens. Okay. Well, at least we can make fire like on Survivor out back, unless there's a fire ban, which of course they'll put in. No fires either. So eat raw eggs. I don't know. And then eggs, have you noticed how like eggs are so much money now? $7, $8. It used to be like one of the, I mean, I'm sure I remember eggs at like $2.29 or something like that. Just crazy. Could we play this former chief economic analyst for Stats Canada, Philip Cross, warning that Canada faces a national crisis over its weak economic growth? Take a look.
Based on current trends, the OECD predicts Canada's growth over the next quarter century will be the slowest in the region. While faltering growth is widely lamented, the diagnosis of its causes often is off base. The interaction of three variables determines growth: the supply of labor, the stock of capital, and the efficiency with which they are combined, what is called total or multi-factor productivity. Canada has relied too much on raising labor inputs. Raising labor inputs in the absence of more investment in productivity likely contributed to lower GDP per capita. Business investment has fallen 21% since 2014, inevitably lowering productivity. Rogers pinpointed weak investment as the main source of Canada's poor productivity. The U.S. demonstrates high investment and productivity are achievable in a society that rewards risk-taking and encourages disruptive innovations. U.S. business investment surged 33% since 2014, the same period over which it fell 21% in Canada.
So, I mean, in a way, he's kind of saying some positive things about the U.S., but it's still really bad for us. But no matter what kind of surge you think is happening in the U.S., it's still like they're all talking doom.
We're down. We're negative.
Yeah, they're positive.
They're up 30%. We're down 21.
Yeah, which is
50%.
50% swing difference. And like, why is that? You have to put that at the feet totally of the Prime Minister, of Chrystia Freeland, of these crazy people. Like, what is it with giving all this money away all the time? Like, where are you all getting it from? You know, if we're $3 trillion in debt, or whatever it is in Canada, where are you getting the funds? How do you even have the personal ego, like the entitlement, you know, and they are entitled, but to say, oh yeah, so we're giving more. I mean, unless you're trying to absolutely destroy our country, just really burns my butt. Okay, Australian Senator Jackie Lambie is calling for the imprisonment of Elon Musk. Take a look.
I think he's a social media knob with no social conscience. He has absolutely no social conscience. Someone like that should be in jail and the key be thrown away. That bloke should not have a right to be out there on his own ideology platform and creating hatred, you know, showing all this stuff out there to our kids and doing all the rest. I'm very interested to watch what the US is going to do with TikTok and how far that they can do. We're trying to get rid of that platform as well. So I think we're all watching on the United States at the moment to see what they're doing. But seriously, if we can move, and if that means in the next sitting that we can shut him down from doing this.
Yeah, Elon Musk is the problem. The guy who's basically outed that with all of these, what are those papers, the election, you know, Matt Taibbi, he put out all that stuff. The what? Twitter files, yeah. On how these huge, you know, platforms, social media platforms collaborated with the government, CIA and FBI in order to sway elections. I mean, it's all out there. There's no lying about it. And Elon Musk is single-handedly doing the job of keeping authentic truth out there. I get to be on X every single day. I love the guy. You know, I really do. I like Elon Musk. And every time he speaks, I just think it's fantastic. And I love when he got rid of that Cuomo guy. Like, they had an interview and then he's like, yeah, you're gone, you're fired. I mean, it was just, he just calls it like he sees it. He made the right decision. That, you know, oh no, it wasn't Cuomo. It was Yeah, Lemon. Don Lemon. Don't say lemon. Don Lemon. And so he has the interview with him and then fires him, like just like that. I love that about Elon Musk. I love that he stepped into the picture with some kind of crazy ideas about going to Mars. I mean, you kind of think, well, if money can buy that, maybe he can actually make that happen. I don't know. And these different things about chipping and all of that. Like, we can all say yes or no, but at least he's for freedom. At least he's for speak your truth. I love that. And then we can all say yes or no. So as Elon Musk, he can say yes or no to whatever he wants to say yes or no to, which he's got a lot of power right now. And the reason I'm happy is I used to get so shadow banned on X, on Twitter, really. And all of a sudden we have a platform that's saying Tucker Carlson can say whatever and do his interviews. We can speak the truth. We can let's talk about the shots. Let's talk about the pandemics. Let's talk about elections. Let's talk about what's going on in the world. And Elon comes in with all of this money and he just makes it possible. And like God has blessed that man with so much money. It's awesome. Because a lot of people with that kind of money, do you know what they do? They're on the wrong side. Why do the wicked prosper? Right? That's what David was asking God in the Psalms. Why do the wicked prosper? Why do all the bad guys seem to be, getting all the breaks and doing this horrible stuff to us? Along comes Elon Musk. Think whatever you like about some of his ideas, but he just gives us all freedom. He buys freedom for us, It's kind of like what Jesus did for us. Jesus bought our freedom. We were all a bunch of wretches, sinners, and he just came in and he paid. Of course, I can't compare Jesus to Elon Musk. Jesus was perfect. Elon is fallible. But the principle of redemption, the principle of giving freedom, when Elon, it's costly, right? Even what happened with Twitter, and he doesn't seem to care about any of that. And now I think that he's doing something that is going to cause more election integrity. So he's putting some funds into some coordinated effort like that. God love him and thank you, for what you're doing, Elon, and we appreciate it. So Australian E-Safety Commissioner Julie Inman Grant, she wants to control what Australians see. And you know how JT was making this point earlier when we were preparing for the show that the same way that Australia was super crazy. Do you remember, like they were COVID crazy, let me tell you. They had all the, the lockdowns and, you can't leave your home within 5 miles. And just, we had some girls on, that talked about their experience. It was nuts. So Australia always seems to be kind of in the lead of certain, nuttiness that's happening for whatever reason. Well, what's happening globally right now is this whole hate speech thing and controlling what everyone can see, say, do, what you think. It's the whole, we're going to control what you think. And that is a spirit of control seizing the entire globe right now. So take a listen to Julie Inman Grant. This is the Australian E-Safety Commissioner.
Well, we have a range of graduated powers. There could be civil proceedings and we could take them to court or we could fine them. Of course, the quantum of the fine would depend on the gravity of the noncompliance, but we can use graduated tools like link deletion notices. So if they fail to remove the content, then we can go to the search engines such as Google or Bing to really minimize the amount of content the Australians can see. To really minimize the amount of content the Australians can see.
That's what it's all about, minimizing. And I'm just looking, I know I put aside this stuff that was on the bill that we were talking about yesterday. Was it C-73? There's so many bills that I'm following. But it's on this, the control, so there's a couple things happening. First of all, they want to ban you in Canada from speaking negatively about fossil fuels or implementing them or the good of them. Is that the craziest thing you've ever heard? Who do you think you are, you bunch of Nazis? It's just like they're crazy, right? And Justin Trudeau, he's got a new commercial out if you've seen that, and it's all on. And I don't want to put it on because it literally is like, you know, watching like a chalkboard grating with nails. You don't want to watch Justin Trudeau doing his thing. But he's talking about this, you know, you've got your credit score thing, and you know how we have to check to see, you know, if you've been paying things well and all of that. You know, what they want is a social credit score where they can just judge you by whether you're woke or not, judge you by what you believe in, judge you by what side of an issue that you're on. They want to control, they want to know everything about us. And while we're trying very hard not to let them, I think that they kind of know. I know for me, it's kind of cat's out of the bag since I'm talking so much. You know, they pretty much know where I stand on everything. A lot of you out there, you're a little bit more quiet. Some of you have been more vocal. You go on your social media and you say such and such. Well, now they can track and trace all of that. So they use it. They could potentially use that against you. I'm not saying to be silent. I'm actually saying we all just have to be more awake, you know. And with this bill for hate speech that they want to implement, I mean, they're talking about putting people in prison for life for hate speech. They don't even really define to a good degree so you can understand what they're talking about. This is very subjective, which could land people in a lot of trouble. To me, it's hate speech to say that if you think that you can get on a plane or train and not be vaccinated, you know, that's pretty hateful. Like you are coming against probably a minority group, and you're threatening them, and you're taking away the things that the beauty of freedom, life, and the beauty of Canada, the beauty of the life of a democracy where you get to have all these incredible opportunities. Like, we could almost think that everything's okay right now because we can all go to any restaurant we want. We can go, you know, this afternoon I could go and grab a Starbucks and go sit someplace and do my work. And sometimes I like to do that. Yesterday I went to a sushi place so I could get some work done. And I like it. I like to get out of the four walls and live my life. And you could almost think everything's okay, except it's not. It's not. They're working tirelessly. And this collapse, you know, this recession that Martin Armstrong is talking about, you can see all the signs of what's going to happen. So, you know, what do we do? So globally, the entire world, all of these countries moving in unison to get hate speech laws implemented. That's the next thing. You shut up. We're going to call you a hater because maybe you think that men are men and women are women. Hater, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. You believe in scientific biological reality. Jail time for you. It's absolutely crazy. Okay, so remember what happened with, I think there's some sort of trial going on. So CPC MP Michael Cooper, and I do like him, asking why two scientists under suspicion of spying, why they still had access to the Winnipeg lab.
Between the time that red flags were first raised about Dr. Chu and Dr. Cheng in the fall of 2018 through to the time that they were marched out of the lab on July 5th of 2019, were any restrictions during that nearly 11-month window placed upon them in terms of their access to the lab?
I'm going to turn to my colleague. At the time, the circumstances were still under investigation, and I would say that until the Canadian Security Intelligence Service was able to provide evidence that pointed to their willing collaboration that was undeclared, and that would have been in June of 2020, there was not evidence of their affiliations with external actors.
Ms. Jeffrey, I find that respectfully, and I know you weren't in charge at the time, but I find that astounding because in March of 2019, PHAC had a fact-finding report that indicated that there had been multiple breaches by Dr. Cheng and Dr. Chu with respect to security, with respect to intellectual property, and that indeed they had been on an unauthorized basis collaborating with the PRC, including the People's Liberation Army. So how at Canada's highest security lab, a level 4 lab, would they have continued to have unfettered access with PHAC having that information?
Mr. Chair, what I can say is that the evidence of their involvement in the talent programs and the foreign associations and some of their travel were not presented to the Public Health Agency until June 30th, 2020.
The fact-finding report was presented to PHAC on March 23rd, 2019, and that report contained all of the things that I just mentioned.
It's very important, given the seriousness of allegations, that we have evidence to back up the allegations.
Ms. Jeffrey, it was a fact-finding report. What evidence was needed to say that perhaps it's not a good idea to have two scientists who are working with Beijing on an unauthorized basis, including the PLA, to have access to a level 4 lab? I think common sense would indicate that they should not have been there after that time.
The administrative investigation that was concluded in the spring of 2019 specifically said that that administrative investigation needed to be launched in order to determine if the allegations that had been raised in the fact-finding were indeed founded. So they were still allegations at that point in time, and in July 2019, both employees, as a result of that, were placed on leave without pay.
So a fact-finding report doesn't have enough facts for you to have actually checked into it. Very annoying, even the monotone sort of thing. I'd like to learn how to talk in just one monotone. Would you guys like to see that, where I don't get excited about anything? I don't know if that makes you seem more credible if you just talk softly and talk on the same tone for a long time. Maybe you won't notice that we didn't do anything that we were supposed to do to save our nation or take care and ensure that we were not creating biological warfare viruses in that lab. I would like to say that as I read our fact-finding report here, that basically, you know, we knew that we would need more facts before we could do anything about anything. I mean, this is the crazy, you know, nonsense. Don't all of you all know that you could run this country better than anyone that's doing it right now? Right? Like, we all know we could. If just, you know what? Make me the prime minister for a day. Just give me the prime minister power for a day. All right? When stuff like this was happening, what's going on? When you look at all the money that was given to people to cover up, including Fauci and those that knew that gain of function was going on in the Wuhan lab, and all of the cover up, nobody was doing nothing. Don't you feel like that the prime minister and the minions in there could potentially they received payoffs to just look the other way over something that looks like this could kill a lot of people if they're doing things that are not good in a lab, and that there's been complaints by folks that are very expert in their field that say this should not be going on and could be harmful to Canada. Do you think that maybe if you're the prime minister or anyone in there would be going, you know what, we better have a look here at something? Or are your paychecks just too big to care? Or do you really not care? And the whole, you know, somebody today was saying to me earlier today that they just want the world to function with less people. So whatever next scenario brings about death, destruction, and less people, oh well, just let it happen. Just turn the other way. You know, it's totally opposite of what God thinks, because God wants us to have abundance, more children, and to be fruitful and to multiply. And none of that's changed. And we don't have a world that's overpopulated. No, we have management problems because the people that get in management don't manage well. They don't take care of the people that God has given them, and they are going to pay for this. There's a very hot place prepared for you for what you're doing. Don't just think that you get away with things while you have breath and life during your physical body realm. We are physical, spiritual. We have a soul that lives forever. And what you do here makes a difference for where you spend eternity. So you will be judged. And I would be worried about that if I were y'all in the Liberal Party. Okay, so Mel Gibson, Roseanne Barr, and Mark Wahlberg are going to form and have formed a non-woke production studio, and I'm pretty excited about this. I think this will be great. So all kinds of things have happened where, they've had their times, especially Mel Gibson, what an epic man. Like, he's either hated by Hollywood or he was loved, at one point. But as soon as he kind of became more open about his thoughts, now he's, has done and said some things that have gotten him in a lot of trouble. I'm always about redemption. When I look at the massive epic film that he created in The Passion of the Christ, and also I think that there's other films that are coming that are going to be, about end times and stuff like that. And I think movies are a great way to show what's going to happen. Speaking of that, just before I close off today, somebody was telling me that he thinks the world's getting ready to have a fake rapture. So they will have ways to incinerate people. This is the guy's idea. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I hope not. So they incinerate people instantaneously, and then holograms will show people rising, and then they'll get some large. And I said, well, we're all going to know that's fake. And he goes, how will you know? And I said, well, because I'll still be here. I hope, if I'm not incinerated, right? Me and my husband will still be here, right, JT? As far as we know, if we're not incinerated, and we'll go, yeah, that's fake because I'm supposed to be going in the rapture, and so this ain't real. I don't know. And this whole hologram stuff where they can show and make things in the sky. Have you seen that, like over China or whatever? And these big swooping dragons can just swoop in.
Drones.
Yeah, they're what?
Drones.
They're drones? Okay.
Put a whole bunch of drones up programmed to do things.
Oh, the drones are up there. So it's not just a picture, like just a... Remember when we saw the singer in Vegas? We saw Seinfeld, and then we went to her concert, Celine Dion. So Celine Dion did this entire concert. So she comes out, she walks on the stage, she sings the whole song, and then just disappeared, right? Like it was a hologram the whole time. In our entire audience, we didn't know that wasn't her. And then we thought that the hologram, didn't she sing with someone who'd already passed away? Something like that. It was a few years ago, yeah. So they had the hologram of the person who'd passed away. So we knew that wasn't real, but we thought she was real. And in the end, all of them were a hologram. Crazy. Okay. My website is Laura-Lynn.tv. Thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate you so much. Thank you to all of you. And thank you to April, who got a hold of me from yesterday. Now I know who April is. We figured it all out. And because you sent me a card anyways, it's a little bit of a complex story. But we're sending out my book to April. And we just want to let you know that if you want to support our organization for $20 or more per month, we're going to send you my book, Relentless Redemption. It is a harrowing story. Never start reading it late at night because you won't be able to put it down. It's written very much at a fast pace, like takes you to the sort of the dregs of what kind of went wrong in my life a long, long time ago. It's actually a very long time ago now. And but it was such a severe time that I actually didn't think that I would recover. But it was God's grace, his power. This is the dispensation of grace. This is such a great time to be alive because God's grace and his mercy are abundant. There's going to come an end to that. And that will be the time in the season of judgment, the dispensation of judgment, where we will face judgment. And right now it's all about mercy. And so I'm always praying for mercy on my family, mercy on my love, definitely mercy on JT, when he's not acting right and stuff, right? But mercy on myself, that God would be merciful to me, that I would act properly. Oh man, I've been just yapping off on X lately, just like, keyboard warrior sitting there. I'll just give them a piece of my mind. So I'm trying to be careful because you can really get caught up in all of that. But I think that we're in serious times. I thank you. You can go to that website. You can donate one time, or you can just go to our email and do an e-transfer. And you can donate anonymously on the website, but LLTT Live, you can send an e-transfer at pm.me. Look at that careful. LLTT, I'm Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson, live at PM for Prime Minister at ME. No, I just want to be the Prime Minister. I will fix all of this, okay? But I actually have no interest. I'm at that place. I think Dominique wrote me the other day. It's saying the same things that I've said to you before, but basically I don't know that we have a political solution. We need a God solution now. And with what our wonderful guest said today, it's probably true. He did mention gold and silver. We wholeheartedly affirm that get your money out of the bank and into gold and silver, into something that's tangible. Even real estate, that's good. As my friend from Alberta said, you can buy diesel, cows, and wheat. That's also a good place to put in. I don't know if you can't sell the wheat or if nobody has money. What do you do with a whole barn full of wheat? Will it go bad? I don't know if that's the best idea. How long can wheat last? Put in a silo. It'll be fine. I don't have a silo. I don't have anywhere to keep cows right now either. So, and diesel, yeah, no. So it doesn't work for me. So I'm going to put my money into something other than these very good ideas. Real estate, I think that's great. JT and I took, the investment that we had made over many years, just sort of, having a family home and raising the kids. And then the kids kind of, took off. And then we took that and we put it into a smaller place. And then we sold and we moved it out of the country. And we let you know all about that because we felt that God had instructed us on that. So I just think we need to hear God. Don't you, everybody? We need to hear God. It's important what God's telling you to do. So let me begin reading to you today. I want to read the parable of the bags of gold. So this is from Matthew 25, verses 14, just 4 verses. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. That's pretty cool, eh? Somebody gives you a lot of wealth and you're a servant to them. So they're your boss. And so to one, the boss gave 5 bags of gold. And to another, he gave 2 bags. And to another, 1 bag. And this is a little bit like the way that God gives us gifts, talents, opportunities, destiny, so that you're able actually to take what God's given you, as we are servants to the Most High, and he gives us treasures, right? So what happened when he did that? Then he went on his journey. You know when God goes on a journey and you don't know where he is? You ever felt that way? Where are you? All holy hell is breaking out down here. Where are you, God? But we have these bags of gold. So the man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work. And he gained 5 bags more. I think that's a good idea. That you take what God has given you, you invest, you're careful with it, you do what is prudent and right, so you make 5 more bags of gold. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag, he went off. He dug a hole in the ground and he hid his master's money. So after a long time, the master of those servants returned, and he settled accounts with them. And the man who had received 5 bags of gold, he was so excited, and he brought forward the other 5. And the master said, Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. And his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. Obviously, this is more than 4 verses now. We're going to do the whole thing. You have been faithful with a few things. Now I'm going to put you in charge of many things. You have been a diligent and a good business person. You have governed and done well with what I gave you. I'm going to give you even more. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold, and I've gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you now in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. I want to share in the master's happiness. You know, happiness is lost these days. Have you seen that? Like, the joy in people's lives is sometimes gone. Not the ones who are really sticking close to the Lord, because the joy of the Lord is our strength, but the only way to get that joy is to nudge into God and be with him as we go through all of this muck that we're in. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came, and master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. Oh, so insulting him basically. So I was afraid, and I went out and I hid your gold in the ground. See, here's what belongs. So his master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown, but you buried the gold and you lost it. You basically did nothing with it. Well, very wicked. You're going to be disciplined. And I'll tell you some other time what happens to him. Okay? Have a great day. See you tomorrow. God bless.
You know, it's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.